The book The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest isn't just another self-help book. It's a heartfelt, deeply introspective guide to transforming the emotional challenges we all face into a journey of personal power. Released in 2020, this book came into the world during a time of global pause and personal reflection, when many of us were forced to confront things we had long avoided: fears, insecurities, past wounds, or the uncomfortable truth that we might be standing in our own way. That's where Brianna's message hits home the hardest. The mountain you are meant to climb is you. Brianna Wiest, known for her raw, poetic, and deeply honest writing, has a way of making you feel like she's sitting across from you, speaking directly into your soul. She doesn't preach. She understands. She writes in a way that's clear, relatable, and deeply comforting, especially for anyone who's felt stuck, burned out, overwhelmed, or weighed down by their own patterns. And that's what makes this book so powerful. It's not about fixing you. It's about waking you up to your own strength, helping you break your own cycles, and guiding you to rise to your own potential. At its core, The Mountain Is You is about self-sabotage, the ways we unknowingly hold ourselves back, delay our growth, or keep repeating the same toxic patterns over and over. But instead of blaming or shaming the reader, Brianna gently walks us through why we do this. Why do we stay in unhealthy relationships? Why do we procrastinate even on things we say we want? Why do we fear change even when staying the same is painful? Her answer is both empowering and emotional. Most of our self-sabotage isn't laziness or lack of willpower. It's survival. It's our inner self trying to protect us, based on old wounds, outdated beliefs, and emotional experiences that never got healed. What makes this book so timely and important for today's world is how it bridges emotional awareness with real-life growth. We live in a fast-paced, hustle-driven culture that often tells us to just push through, keep grinding, or fake it till you make it. But this book invites you to pause, reflect, and heal first. Because the biggest breakthroughs often come from doing the inner work. And let's be real. In a world full of distractions and noise, that kind of deep personal clarity is rare and priceless. Whether you're someone who feels stuck in a cycle you can't break, or you're simply craving a deeper connection to yourself, this book shows you how to become the kind of person who no longer needs to run from their own emotions. It teaches you how to climb the mountain of your fear, self-doubt, and unprocessed pain. Not to fight it, but to transform it into strength. It's about becoming emotionally resilient, building a life that aligns with who you truly are, and understanding that the only thing standing between you and the life you want might just be you. And that's the beauty of this book. It doesn't just inspire you. It gives you the tools to rebuild yourself from the inside out, one layer at a time. And before moving further, please consider subscribing this channel. The Mindful Brief. For more life-transforming books, also press the like button. Self-sabotage. It's a heavy word, isn't it? Sounds like something only people with big problems deal with. But the truth is, we all do it. Every single one of us. And The Mountain Is You starts right here, with this uncomfortable but liberating truth. Self-sabotage isn't a sign that you're broken or weak. It's actually the clue. The red, blinking light on the dashboard of your life, telling you there's something deeper beneath the surface that needs attention. In the opening chapters, Brianna Wiest gently pulls us into a powerful realization. Self-sabotage is not some mysterious, dramatic act of destruction. It's subtle, it's sneaky, and most of the time it shows up in everyday moments. Like procrastinating a passion project you've dreamt about for years, saying no to love because you're afraid of being hurt, staying in a job that drains you because it feels safe, overthinking decisions, picking fights when things are going well. Sabotage doesn't scream. It whispers in your routines, in your doubts, and in the quiet moments where fear wins over growth. But here's the breakthrough idea. Self-sabotage is a survival mechanism. That's right. It's not rooted in laziness or carelessness. It's a protective behavior developed by your brain and body to keep you safe from emotional risk. We often think we're avoiding failure, but what we're really avoiding is the discomfort of change, the vulnerability of hope, or the pain of disappointment. So our subconscious steps in and quietly shuts down anything that feels too uncertain, even if it's the very thing we've always wanted. Brianna reminds us that people don't fear hard work or success itself. What they fear is being seen. What they fear is what success might demand: growth, risk, exposure, possible rejection, or worse. The realization that they might still feel empty after making it. So instead, we stay in the known, even if the known hurts us. One of the most striking insights here is that you can't out-discipline your way out of emotional wounds. You can create schedules, set alarms, repeat affirmations, but if you haven't dealt with the root of your fear, no amount of structure will stop the sabotage. And this is why so many of us stay stuck. We try to fix the surface level behaviors, but we don't go deeper to heal the beliefs behind them. Brianna takes us into this deeper level by showing us that behind every act of sabotage is an unhealed part of ourselves, that inner child who once learned that love was conditional, that teenager who believed their worth was tied to achievement, that adult who has confused chaos with comfort because it's all they've ever known. These parts of us, they're still operating behind the scenes, steering the wheel of our lives. And until we bring them into the light with compassion, we'll keep repeating the same cycles. Different faces, different places, same emotional result. One of the most emotional, eye-opening ideas in this section is the concept of emotional addiction. We become addicted, not consciously, to the feelings we're used to, whether it's anxiety, disappointment, guilt, or chaos. If that's what we've lived with long enough, we begin to crave it. It becomes our emotional home, so even when peace and happiness show up, we might reject them. Not because we don't want them, but because they don't feel familiar. And when something doesn't feel familiar, it doesn't feel safe. Brianna doesn't just leave us in this emotional wilderness, though. She points to the way out, and it begins with awareness. Not judgment, not shame, just becoming aware. Aware of when and how you sabotage. Aware of your patterns, your triggers, your recurring thoughts. It's like turning on the lights in a dark room you've been afraid to enter. The monsters aren't so scary when you really see them. In fact, most of them are just old memories, unprocessed feelings, and beliefs you didn't choose, but inherited. This section of the book asks you to sit with yourself, honestly, maybe for the first time in a long time, and gently ask, where in my life am I holding myself back? And more importantly, why? What am I afraid of losing if I become the person I dream of being? What parts of me still believe I'm not worthy of joy, love, or success? The power of this part is that it doesn't try to fix you. It helps you understand yourself. And that shift alone changes everything. Because once you stop fighting yourself and start listening with compassion, real transformation begins. You realize that the mountain isn't your laziness. It's not your flaws. It's not even your trauma. The mountain is the emotional terrain you've been too scared to climb. The terrain of your own unmet needs, ignored pain, and buried potential. The mountain is, you is clear about one thing. Your breakthrough is not somewhere out there in the distance. It's inside of you. It begins when you stop running from yourself and start walking toward the truth of who you are. Even if it's hard, even if it's slow, even if it's uphill, because that climb is where you find your strength, your clarity, and your power. And so, this isn't just an introduction to the problem, it's an invitation. An invitation to stop living on autopilot and start becoming the conscious creator of your life. An invitation to meet the version of yourself that's been waiting on the other side of fear. That version of you, they're already there. You just have to climb. Now that we've understood that self-sabotage is not a flaw but a signal, a sign that something deeper within us needs healing, Brianna Wiest takes us further into the heart of the mountain. And here, in part 2, she gently but powerfully uncovers where all of this begins, in our emotional wounds and unhealed trauma. Let's be clear. When we hear the word trauma, our minds often jump to the most extreme examples: abuse, tragedy, deep loss. But Brianna wants us to expand that definition. Because trauma isn't just what happened to you. Trauma is also what didn't happen. The love you didn't receive, the safety you didn't feel, the words you needed to hear but never did, the emotional needs that went unmet, sometimes by people who were doing the best they could. Trauma in this book is described as emotional residue, and that residue lingers quietly, deeply, shaping how we see ourselves, how we trust others, how we move through the world. It's the silent root of so many behaviors we can't seem to explain. Why we shrink when we should stand tall. Why we avoid vulnerability like it's danger. Why we crave validation but push people away when they get too close. These aren't random traits. They're learned emotional responses built in the shadows of early experiences. And here's the beautiful yet hard truth. Your nervous system remembers everything, even the things your conscious mind has forgotten. It remembers what felt unsafe. It remembers when love was inconsistent. It remembers the moment you decided, I have to earn love, or I must stay small to be accepted, or it's not safe to speak up. These beliefs aren't your fault, but they're living inside you, and they're running the show until you consciously choose to heal. Brianna introduces a concept here that hits deep: emotional survival programming. It's like software written into your brain during your earliest experiences. If your environment taught you that chaos equals connection, or that emotional expression led to punishment, then even as an adult, your subconscious will seek out those same patterns. Not because they feel good, but because they feel familiar. And the brain confuses familiarity with safety. So, you end up choosing the same relationships, the same disappointments, the same cycles. Not because you want to suffer, but because suffering is what feels normal. That's why true healing doesn't start with just thinking positive or manifesting better outcomes. Healing starts with rewriting the programming. You have to go back to those emotional root memories and gently, patiently update what you believe about yourself and what you deserve. And no, it's not easy, but it's necessary. This part of the book is all about turning inward without shame. It invites you to ask, where did I learn this pattern? Who taught me that I had to earn love? When did I begin to believe that I wasn't enough? These aren't questions meant to blame the past. They're meant to free you from it. Because until you become aware of where the pain started, you can't begin to choose something different. One of the most powerful parts of this section is how Brianna talks about emotional permanence. When you experience intense pain in your early years, especially without the tools or support to process it, your brain locks that emotion in place. So you grow older, but part of you stays frozen in that moment. That's why a small rejection today might feel like heartbreak, or why a minor mistake might spiral into shame. You're not reacting to now, you're reacting to then. Healing is about catching those moments and reminding your nervous system we are not in danger anymore. We are safe now. This is also where the idea of emotional reparenting comes in. You may not have received the emotional safety, love, or validation you needed as a child, but you as an adult can now give it to yourself. That might sound strange, but it's one of the most healing things you can do. Talk to yourself the way a loving parent would. Set boundaries the way a protector would. Celebrate your progress the way a mentor would. Because the truth is, no one else can climb your mountain for you, but you can become the version of you who is strong enough to do it. This part is deeply emotional because it asks you to face the pain you have carried for a long time, but it also gives you hope. It reminds you that you're not broken, you're just unhealed. And healing is possible. In fact, it's inevitable if you stay willing to meet yourself with honesty and kindness. Brianna's message here is crystal clear. The way out is through the discomfort, through the grief, through the tears. But what's waiting on the other side is not just relief. It's power. Because once you understand your patterns, once you see the origin of your sabotage, you start to take your power back. You stop living in reaction. You start living by choice. And that is the beginning of transformation. Now that we understand self-sabotage and where it comes from the buried emotional wounds and unprocessed trauma of our past, and Brianna Wiest takes us to the next step of our journey, facing the mountain. This is the part where it starts to feel real, because recognizing the problem is only the beginning. The true turning point comes when we stop running, stop avoiding, and finally stand face to face with what's been holding us back. Not to fight it, not to be ashamed of it, but to finally own it, fully. That's what this part of the book is all about, awareness and ownership. Brianna makes one thing very clear. Awareness is not just knowing something intellectually. It's not reading a quote and nodding along. It's not talking about your issues with friends over coffee. True awareness is deeper. It's that quiet, often uncomfortable moment when you catch yourself in the act. When you realize, oh, I'm doing it again. It's that split second when you want to pull away from love, lash out, quit the thing that matters, or numb out with distractions. And instead of blindly following the impulse, you pause and observe. That pause, that's the beginning of transformation. Wiest explains that most people are operating on autopilot. Their behaviors are driven by past emotions, their choices are reactions, and their patterns are just rehearsed pain. We think we're making conscious decisions, but unless we interrupt the pattern with awareness, we're just reliving old programming. That's why facing the mountain is so important. It's about becoming the conscious observer of your own life, asking, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And is it really what I want? But here's where it gets bold. Awareness alone is not enough. You can know your patterns, talk about your fears, and journal your heart out. But without ownership, nothing changes. Ownership means taking radical responsibility, not in a way that blames yourself, but in a way that empowers you. It means saying, yes, this happened to me. Yes, I learned these survival patterns, but now I choose something different. It's about no longer waiting for other people to rescue you, validate you, or fix your life. It's about realizing this is my mountain, and I have to climb it. One of the hardest truths in this section is that change requires discomfort. If you want to grow, you have to be willing to leave behind the emotional comfort zone that's kept you stuck. Brianna talks about how real healing doesn't always feel like a sunrise and fresh flowers. Sometimes it feels like anxiety. Sometimes it feels like loss. Because when you let go of old identities, when you stop being the version of yourself who hides, avoids, or settles, there's grief. Even if those parts of you were hurting you, they were familiar. And letting go of them feels like letting go of home. But this is where something beautiful happens. When you face your mountain, when you sit with your fear, your anger, your shame, you start to see that these emotions are not enemies. They are signals. They are messages from parts of you that just want to be seen, heard, and healed. you begin to realize that your pain was never the problem. Avoiding the pain was. This part also dives into the idea of emotional triggers. Triggers are not just annoying reactions. They are direct arrows pointing to where you're still hurting. When you feel triggered, like by rejection, criticism, abandonment, or failure, instead of running from it or blaming someone else, Brianna encourages us to lean in and ask, what wound is this touching? What belief is being activated here? Because every trigger is a doorway to deeper self-awareness. One of the most empowering insights here is the difference between pain and suffering. Pain is part of life. It's inevitable. But suffering is what happens when we resist that pain, when we cling to the past, or when we make our emotions our identity. You are not your sadness. You are not your fear. You are the one observing it. And the more you face these parts of yourself without judgment, the more power you take back. Facing the mountain is not about fixing everything overnight. It's about staying present with yourself, noticing your habits, owning your patterns, choosing better, one moment at a time. It's not linear, it's not pretty, but it is real, and it is worth it. Wiest reminds us that we all have a core self, a part of us untouched by pain, doubt, or fear. That version of you. They've been waiting for you to peel back the layers of defense and trauma and finally say, I'm ready. I'm not scared of who I've been. I'm ready to become who I'm meant to be. So, if you're listening to this and feeling discomfort, good. That means you're not hiding anymore. You're waking up. You're facing your truth. And that is the bravest thing you can do. Next, we'll go even deeper into healing your inner world. How do you shift from knowing your patterns to actually rewiring them? How do you create new emotional pathways and build a version of yourself that can stand tall on any mountain peak? In this part, Brianna Wiest walks us through the process of emotional healing and reprogramming. It's not about forcing change or powering through. It's about learning to gently reshape the inner world that created your outer reality. Because your beliefs, the quiet thoughts you carry about yourself, others, and the world, they act like filters. And those filters decide what you see, what you attract, what you accept, and even what you sabotage. She starts with a powerful reminder: your brain is changeable. Through neuroplasticity, your mind can form new pathways. But here's the catch. The brain doesn't change with knowledge alone. It changes with repetition and emotion. You don't become a new version of yourself by reading affirmations once. You become new by consistently feeding your mind new beliefs and emotionally aligning with those beliefs, even when your body is still clinging to old survival responses. Brianna makes something very clear here. To heal your patterns, you must first feel safe enough to let them go. That's why emotional regulation is such a big part of this section. Most self-sabotage happens when you're overwhelmed, when your nervous system is dysregulated. Think about it. When you're anxious, scared, or ashamed, you don't make empowered choices. You go into flight, fight, or freeze. So, before you can even change your behavior, you have to learn how to soothe yourself. Calm the storm before you try to steer the ship. Wiest introduces the idea of becoming your own emotional anchor. That means developing practices that bring you back into your body, your breath, your now. Whether it's deep breathing, mindful journaling, taking a walk, or just learning to sit with discomfort. These are the tools that train your system to stay grounded when things get hard. And healing isn't about never feeling triggered again. It's about knowing what to do when you are. Another core theme here is inner dialogue. Brianna encourages us to pay attention to how we speak to ourselves. Not just out loud, but silently. In the privacy of our thoughts, are you constantly criticizing yourself, comparing yourself, doubting yourself before you even try? If so, you're reinforcing the exact patterns that hurt you. Healing means rewriting that dialogue. Talking to yourself like you would to someone you love. Practicing compassion, not just when you succeed, but especially when you fall short. This section also unpacks the belief systems that run your life, often without your awareness. Do you believe love has to be earned? That success only comes with struggle? That you're not worthy unless you're constantly proving yourself? These beliefs are not facts. They are inherited thoughts shaped by culture, family, trauma, and repetition. And the moment you realize you can choose new beliefs, you begin to take control of your story. Brianna offers a gentle but firm challenge. Stop waiting for your feelings to change before you act. Start acting from the version of yourself you want to become, even if it feels unfamiliar at first. When you show up for yourself consistently, with love, with boundaries, with courage, your feelings eventually catch up. That's how you build emotional trust with yourself. One of the most comforting truths is that healing doesn't always feel like healing. Sometimes it feels like boredom, discomfort, or even grief. Why? Because you're no longer chasing chaos, you're no longer numbing the pain, you're sitting with yourself. And in that stillness, all the emotions you once ran from finally rise to the surface. That's not failure. That's the work. Wiest reminds us that healing isn't about becoming a perfect person. It's about becoming a whole person. Someone who can feel deeply, but not be ruled by their feelings. Someone who can love themselves enough to say no when needed. Someone who can look in the mirror and say, "I've got me," no matter what. And maybe one of the most powerful messages here is this: you don't heal by fixing yourself. You heal by finally accepting yourself, not the polished, put together version of you, but the messy, scared, still learning version. Because that's where the real you lives. And the more you meet that version with love instead of judgment, the more you set yourself free. This book doesn't offer quick fixes or magical promises. Instead, it offers something even better: tools for emotional freedom. Tools you can use for the rest of your life. Because once you've learned to regulate your emotions, to rewrite your beliefs, and to become your own source of safety, no mountain is too high. And the best part? You realize you were never broken, just blocked. And once the emotional dam starts to break, your real life, your real power, starts to flow. By now, you've faced the mountain, named the pain, and started the process of healing your inner world. You've calmed the storm within. But now comes the part where healing becomes living. This is where theory turns into action. This is where you stop identifying with your wounds and start stepping into the version of yourself you were always meant to be. In Part of The Mountain Is You, Brianna Wiest shows us how to build the new you, not just with vision, but with habits, identity, and purpose. We often think of personal growth as an emotional journey, and it is. But transformation also needs structure. If your life doesn't reflect your healing, then the healing hasn't truly integrated. And that's what this part of the book is all about: alignment. You can't become a new person by repeating the behaviors, choices, and rhythms of your past. You have to intentionally build a life that supports your highest self, step by conscious step. Brianna begins with something that may surprise you. Your habits are more important than your goals. Why? Because goals give you direction, but habits build your reality. You might want peace, confidence, purpose, but if your daily routine is full of chaos, distraction, and fear-driven choices, you'll keep cycling back to the same place. Your future self is not created in one big moment. It's created in the small decisions you make every single day. This is where the idea of identity-based habits comes in. Instead of asking, "What do I want to achieve?" ask, "Who do I want to become?" Then align your actions to that identity. If you want to be someone who's calm and grounded, how would that version of you start the day? If you want to be a writer, how does that version of you spend their mornings or weekends? If you want to attract love, how does a lovable, confident version of you show up in the world? It's no longer about willpower, it's about embodiment. Doing, thinking, behaving, and choosing as the person you're stepping into, even before you feel ready. Because waiting to feel confident before you act is like waiting to get strong before you go to the gym. You don't wait. You build strength by showing up. And the more you show up, the more you reinforce the belief that you are the new version of yourself. This part also explores how much your environment influences your evolution. You can't build a new you in the same mental, emotional, or even physical space that created the old you. Brianna encourages us to declutter not just our closets, but our habits, our relationships, our thoughts. Everything around you either reinforces your old story or supports your new one. So ask, what in my life still belongs to my past self? And what would support who I'm becoming? One of the most empowering sections here is about creating meaning and direction. Once you've cleared the internal debris, you need something that pulls you forward. That's where purpose comes in. But Brianna reframes purpose in a refreshing way. It's not always some big, world-changing mission. It's often simple: to live in alignment with your truth, to wake up each day and move through life with intention, with heart, and with presence. She writes about how purpose is often found in service, in creating, in contributing, in choosing to use your life energy to build something beautiful, whether it's a career, a connection, or a peaceful home. And here's the key: you don't have to find your purpose. You build it brick by brick, moment by moment, through experimentation, exploration, and listening to what makes you feel most alive. Another game-changing insight is you don't change your life by changing everything overnight. You change your life by choosing one small shift and committing to it. A 5-minute morning ritual, a daily check-in with your thoughts, saying no when you usually say yes, speaking up instead of shrinking down. These tiny, powerful acts signal to your subconscious, we're doing things differently now. And over time, they create a ripple effect. The new you becomes less of a dream and more of a reality. But Brianna doesn't pretend this shift is always smooth. There will be days when you slide back into old habits, when fear creeps in, when the old identity feels more comfortable. And that's okay. The difference now is that you're aware. You've built tools, you've done the work, you can catch yourself and choose again. Because self-growth isn't about never falling. It's about rising faster each time you do. This part also explores how confidence isn't something you wait for. It's something you build by keeping promises to yourself. When you say you'll do something, wake up early, move your body, write, speak, show up, and you follow through, you start to trust yourself. That trust becomes confidence. That confidence becomes momentum. And momentum, that's how mountains move. So what does building the new you actually look like? It looks like redefining success on your own terms, choosing peace over chaos even when chaos is familiar, setting boundaries that protect your energy, speaking to yourself like someone worth rooting for, aligning your habits with your healing, and most of all, it looks like showing up for yourself every single day. Not perfectly, but intentionally. In the end, becoming the new you isn't about changing into someone else. It's about returning to the version of you that was buried under pain, fear, and survival. It's about becoming more you than ever before. And that's what makes this book so powerful. It reminds you that you already have everything you need. You just need to claim it. This is it. The final climb. You've done the work, acknowledged the pain, faced the patterns, healed the wounds. rewired your beliefs, and built the foundation of the new you. And now in part of The Mountain Is You, Brianna Wiest takes you to the summit. Not just to look back at how far you've come, but to step fully into who you are now becoming. This part is about transformation, yes. But more importantly, it's about emotional resilience. The kind of strength that isn't loud or showy, but steady, grounded, and unshakable. So, what does it mean to become the mountain? Brianna flips the metaphor here. At the beginning of the book, the mountain was something you had to climb. An obstacle, a burden, a struggle. But now she helps you realize, you are not here to conquer the mountain. You are here to become it. To become the version of yourself that no longer crumbles under fear or sabotages under pressure. To become solid, grounded, expansive, not in a way that resists emotion, but in a way that holds it with grace. Transformation isn't about reaching a perfect, polished state. It's not about becoming someone who never feels afraid, never struggles, never slips. It's about learning to respond to life in a new way. When challenges arise, and they will, you don't shrink or collapse. You adapt. You observe. You respond with awareness. You stay rooted in your truth, no matter what storm passes through. That's emotional resilience. And that's the heart of this final part. Brianna reminds us that we build resilience through repetition. Every time you choose not to numb, avoid, or lash out, every time you sit with discomfort, honor your boundaries, speak up for yourself, or return to your healing practices, you're building strength. You're proving to your nervous system, we can handle this now. And that's what changes everything. Because life will never stop presenting new challenges, but you'll stop collapsing under them. One of the most important shifts here is learning to live in emotional neutrality. That doesn't mean you don't feel anymore. It means you stop letting your feelings define your identity. You learn to notice them like weather. Temporary, passing, always in motion. You can say, I feel anxious right now, instead of, I am anxious. You can feel sad without assuming something's wrong. You can ride emotional waves without being thrown off course. That's how you stay grounded. Brianna also talks about something incredibly important here: self-trust. When you become the mountain, you stop outsourcing your confidence, your safety, or your joy to other people. You no longer wait for permission to speak, live, or love. You trust your voice, you trust your choices, you trust that you can handle whatever life brings, because you've handled so much already, and you're still standing. And let's not forget, transformation is not a straight line. It's a spiral. You will revisit old emotions, old patterns, old wounds, but now you'll meet them from a higher place. You'll catch them faster. You'll respond more calmly. You'll remember that healing is not about being done. It's about being present, being honest, and choosing alignment again and again. One of the most empowering insights in this chapter is that the new you isn't someone you find. It's someone you create. Every choice, every boundary, every act of self-respect is a brick in the foundation of your transformation. And you'll know you're becoming the mountain when peace no longer feels boring, when solitude feels nourishing, when you stop proving and start being. Wiest also explores what it means to live a life of emotional responsibility. That means you no longer blame others for your triggers. You don't expect the world to fix your mood. You don't collapse into victimhood. Instead, you witness your emotions, investigate the story underneath, and ask, what am I believing right now? What's really going on inside me? What do I need to feel safe, seen, or supported? And then, you give that to yourself. You stop looking for love in places that drained you. You stop seeking validation from people who don't even know who they are. You stop waiting for someone to rescue you from your own power, because you've remembered who you are. Becoming the mountain is not about being hard or cold. It's about being rooted. It's about being strong enough to be soft, open enough to be vulnerable, brave enough to love again. It's about choosing peace, not because you're avoiding life, but because you've finally made peace with yourself. And that's what this book leaves you with. Not just motivation, but embodiment. Not just healing, but wholeness. A new way of living, a new way of being. You are not just someone climbing toward a better version of yourself. You are that version now, building her or him one choice at a time. So here you are, standing at the summit, not with all the answers, not with a flawless mindset, but with awareness, courage, and a deep sense of self-trust. And that is more than enough, because from this place, no matter what comes next, you won't run, you won't shrink, you'll stand tall, you'll breathe deep, and you'll rise again. Because now, you are the mountain. The biggest battle you'll ever fight isn't with the world, it's with yourself. The mountain is. You reminds us that the mountains standing in our way aren't out there somewhere. They're within us. Our fears, our patterns, our pain, our self-doubt, they are the very things we must face, not to conquer them, but to understand them. Because healing doesn't make you someone new. It reveals who you were all along. True transformation doesn't happen in a flash. It happens in small moments. When you choose growth over comfort, honesty over avoidance, peace over chaos. When you stop running, stop numbing, and finally start listening to yourself. If this message stirred something in you, if you're ready to rise and become your strongest self, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your next chapter begins with a single choice. Make it count.